Okay, welcome to example 4. In this one, we can have to look at closer look at the age attribute that each particle gets when it's in a popnet, and kind of what we can do with that after the popnet, once we get the particles out of the pop system. So what we're going to create is something like this. It doesn't really look like particles. I can agree with that, but it definitely is. And particles have a big use in stuff like this, like MoGraph stuff and just any kind of crazy effect you want to create. Particles is always a good starting point. So I'm going to take you through how to make this, and yeah, let's do it. So to begin with, we're going to create a sphere. We're going to add some normals with the facet sop. We're going to pause compute them just to get them into point. Before they were vertex. Now we have them to points. Okay, that's great. Now we're going to scatter some points. We're scatter node, we're going to scatter 50 points. We're going to put the global seed to F, $F, which means that the seed will go for every frame. You also get some like variation, get like a little bit of like moving points like this. Now, let's take a look here. I haven't really done anything here, to be honest. Like, I don't need it, because the only thing I want is the particles to be birthed on the surface. Okay, so the source I'm grabbing here is not all points, it's points, because then I can kind of define how many of these points I want to actually source. So I'm going to source 10 points. I'm going to have all that activation stuff to 1. I'm going to put the life to 2 and no life variance, just for this example. Usually do want to have some life variance, but for this example we're going to go with 2, so we know that the life can never be bigger than 2. Okay, so each particle is gonna live for no more, no less than 2 seconds or 48 frames. No velocities at all, because we want them to actually stay in their position on the surface of this sphere. Yeah, that's it. If we now take a look at how the emission looks, if you turn off the guide here, it looks like this. So we can see they are birthed, and then they die, then more are birthed. So each frame more are birthed, but each frame more die as well. So it's kind of like I don't know. This itself is kind of cool, I guess, but yeah. So that's all we're doing in this pop system. It's super simple, but it's very useful, because now these points actually have the attribute age, and we're gonna do some cool stuff with that. So now, what we want to do with this age is that we want to be able to scale these lines that we are gonna copy on to the points. We're gonna scale them first up and then down by knowing what age each particle has. So if the particle has age 0, the line is gonna be length 0. If the particle has the age 2 or is dead, the line is gonna be 0 as well. And in between that, the line is gonna go up to maybe 1 and then back to 0. So how do we do this? Well, we have to fit the age into a range that is more workable for us. And how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. So in a point VOP, or an attribute VOP, let's go in. Let's take a look here. So I've done some notes here, so you can read it if you want, but it's very simple actually. So you grab the age to a fit range. We know that our minimum age is 0, and our maximum age is 2. We want to fit a 0 to 2 range to a 0 to 1 range. And why do we want to do that? Because we want to use a ramp to define the value of something. And ramps is mostly very useful to always have a 0 to 1 range going into ramp, which we have here. So now we have a 0.1 range going into this ramp here. This ramp is going to be set to RGB color ramp. We're going to pipe this ramp out to a bind export to p-scale. And p-scale is the actual attribute that will drive the length of our lines later on when we copy on the lines. But for now, we're going to focus on this ramp. So we have a ramp here that still goes from 0 to 1. We can't leave it like that, because then the p-scale will only go from 0 to 1. So when the point is age 0, the line is going to be 0. When the particle is age 2, the line will only be 1. It won't have gone back, it won't have gone up. It's only gonna grow. So we want to remap that with our ramp here. So let's go up and let's take a look. So the ramp that we have comes in like this, okay? It goes from 0 to 1. We want to remap this with its color. We're gonna put, because we know that black is 0, 0, 0, and white is 1, 1, 1. We can only focus on the float value. We can focus on the X float value, but still, the X float value for the black here is 0. The X float value for the white is 1. So we want to put the 1 value in the middle instead of at the end. So we're gonna put 0.5 for the position of this. And then that means that it will go from 0 to 1 in half of its life, okay? And then we want it to go back to 0, which means we can drag it out another point here. We can put this to 0, 0, 0. And this means that our p-scale will now go from 0 to 1 and back to 0 in the range of 0 to 2. So H0, H1, H2. Hopefully that's coming off kind of understandable, but it will make sense when you actually do it by yourself. You take a look at this file. But yeah, so that's everything actually. Now we have a p-scale that is varying based on the age of the particles. So now let's copy on some lines. Let's use a copy node. Let's add a line. Let's put direction to 0, 0, 1. Let's put the length to 1 and points to 2. And then copy. Now, let's see what happens if you play it. Yes, play it. There we go. They grow and they shrink based on age. That's pretty cool. Yeah, and this can obviously be remapped even more. We can ramp it if we want. We can do something like this, where we kind of shoot faster, like this, boom, and they stay, and then they go back. So they are not at all moving in the middle. Or we can do it even fancier. We can do it like something like this. So we can add like a lower value here. Let's kind of define this. Let's put it to 0.2. 0.2. Let's put all the values to 0.2. Let's put all of these values to 0.2 as well. Let's drag this in like this. And then let's add a big value here, like 1. Or 2. I mean, we could even go over the 1 if you wanted to, but I would advise to stay in this range. We can always multiply things later on. But anyway, here we go. So we're gonna put this in the middle, and let's see what that looks like. So now we have a completely different ramp. Boom. That's kind of cool. So they grow a little bit, and then boom, shoot off, and then they go back. Kind of interesting effect. You can get many kind of results by just playing with the ramp and doing different values in it. But it's a very useful thing to know and to use a lot. I use it all the time, I would say. I feel like most of these things I use all the time, but that's just because I want to show you guys the most important things. Anyway, I hope you learned something. Let's take a final look at what it looks like. Boom. Yeah. See you guys in the next tutorial.